Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to camera number 2 over here in Krown's Crypto Cave. Wish you a happy and healthy start and a less rainy start to your day than we're experiencing over here in Helsinki, Finland. Holy shit, it was loud as fuck last night with very, very heavy rain dropping down on the windows. Anyways, we have a lot to talk about today with the price action on Bitcoin. I want to always remind myself that the focus on this channel is not my opinion on price action, but rather the technical analysis on that. And the trigger that we were looking for to initiate the downside move happened, and that's what opened up the doors for that nice $400 more like $400 to $500 move all the way down to about $9,800 before that nice little bounce that we saw. So I want to talk about that because it is Sunday. Typically, I do talk about long-term price analysis, but with the action happening in the overnight session, I think that we have a few things to discuss in the lower time frames as well that is going to really translate well into the higher time frames. Anyways, if you're in the TA program, I want to announce that there's a new bonus module up and available to you. It was really intended to only be about 5 minutes long, but it ended up being about 45 minutes long because at the end of the day, this project, the technical analysis program that is, and the options program of course as well, are legacy projects for myself. So I want to make sure that every little last nuance situation is covered in depth. Is this something that you absolutely need to know in order to be a successful trader? No, but this is really for the TA autists, the TA nerds out there like myself, being perhaps the biggest one. Really, going in depth on that topic. So check it out over there. It's going to be available on crowntrading.net venue and also on the Krown Trading app. Anyway, speaking of the app, it is live, it is free, and it is found at app.crowntrading.net. And it's kind of like a thank you from us to you and, well, us to us because, well, it's for us by us. It's a community project, essentially. But yeah, what else do I want to say? I might be on Twitch later today. I'm not so sure just yet. If I'm not, Elsa might be on. She was on last night actually for like a 4-hour session. It's pretty damn cool. Her handle is Elsa69 and mine is included in the links below. Anyways, with all that said, I want to get into live scene right now. Wish you the best and the happiest of the happiest and a little bit of a profitable Sunday, perhaps even as well. I'm pressing that button and I'll see you in the live scene, which is now the Krown Trading application. And the first and foremost thing that really sticks out to me right here, Bitcoin dominance rallying a little bit off the level that we spoke about yesterday. So we are steady for a second here, but more importantly, the open interest actually taking a nice little $100 million or $100 million. $100 million. I think I quite literally am dyslexic. $100 million dumpy dump right there. So it's not necessarily the shattering effect that we've been looking for, but good enough for a nice little move and keeping the market, just slowly but surely kind of egging on. So that's going to tie into our more long-term analysis, but just keep that one in the back of your mind's eye. Anyways, with all that said, let's actually get into the price charts right here, and let's talk about this whole picture right now. So yesterday when I left you off, we said essentially that as long as if Bitcoin takes out the wick low that we were getting from, I believe it was Thursday's price action right around 70. It was about 10,100ish region. This wick right here, we would look for a move down to about the 9,800 to 9,850ish level. We got that move. Looks like a little bit later in the day for myself on Saturday, and well, where do we find ourselves at? That next relevant horizontal support that we see right around about 9,800, 9,850ish region. We can make this a little bit more of a liquid zone if we wanted to, but I think that it accurately got it pretty damn well. And again, this is weekend price action. So I think that I've been massively misheard on a lot of weekend price action because people will say, Krown, how could you say that the real trading week is only when CMEs are trading? Price action moves on the weekends too. They suck. They don't even do volume. It's like, no, understand that the biggest traders, the people who actually move this market, are the ones who are going to be trading during the regular week because they're going to be on regular normal Wall Street hours most likely. It has nothing to do with anything with like any like crazy boogeyman, financial boogeyman theories. CME is quite literally just an exchange. It's not a person who, like, people have this weird idea that like CME, they refer to CME as like a person rather than like an exchange. It's fucking exchange. It's an inanimate object. It doesn't have any thoughts, needs, or wants and acts. Just wants people to trade. That's all. But people say CME is evil. It's like, what the fuck? I actually happen to know quite a few people there, and they're pretty regular people. Anyways, that's another topic for another time. Anyways, perhaps better spoken about in the psychological playlist, of which, you know, there's all the videos about responsibility, and I think that that's usually where those sorts of topics come from. Anyways, as it is right now, Bitcoin coming down to that next support area, we did get the bounce off that, so I do like that. And while I did say I was not looking for this price action to happen, the trigger was met, and the trigger takes over is always first and foremost to my shitty dog shit opinion, which is wrong all the time. So this is why I go over the technical analysis and talk about scenarios that I don't even really think are all that even likely to happen, including the one last night. But this price action happening over a weekend does make me think that this is actually still more or less fine. I know that sounds crazy right now. I know that people are like, I literally saw multiple comments in the YouTube section the other night about people saying, Krown, you're way too bullish. We're going down to 8,500 at the very least, and probably even 7,000 and lower than that. It's like, maybe, but no, probably not until we actually break 9,600. As long as Bitcoin's above 9,600 on higher time frames, that means daily, 3-day, and weekly, I'm not bearish at all whatsoever for like a major macro reversal. We got our short-term downwards move. That was, you know, that was more or less, I wouldn't say anticipated, but it was, you know, within the realm of possibility without still destroying the macro time frames. And that's essentially what we're seeing right here. And I would say that I'd actually be looking for Bitcoin to probably test back up towards about 10,150 to 10,200, the blue box territory that we broke down from yesterday night, probably around the time that CME's open later tonight. And this is, again, not for any other reason, just because price action over the weekend typically does get reverted, because the price action over the weekend is, again, usually used to liquidate over leveraged traders. If you're getting liquidated by a $500 move to the upside or the downside in a Bitcoin price action, you are definitely over leveraged. You are over leveraged if even a $1,000 move gets you out of your position. I mean, that is just insanity to me. Not only that, but if you're even considering liquidations, then you're probably just over leveraged in general, because realistically, you know, you should be managing your risk a little bit more forthrightly. At least that's the way that I look at things. I don't know any professional who manages their fucking risk with a goddamn liquidation price. It's always done manually, or maybe not manually, but certainly proactively, not letting the exchange arbitrarily liquidate you at whatever price that your leverage deems. That is silliness. That is gambling. That is certainly not what I'm focused on. And if you are ever interested in in one of the programs that I offer, if you are that person, it is not for you, because that is quite literally the fucking antithesis of how I manage risk. Anyways, looking at this right here, you know, I do think that we're probably going to come back down and test around 9850 again, maybe 9900-ish region, but I actually don't think that we break down. And again, my opinion is irrelevant, but as long as we just don't break this area on a 4-hour total closure below about 9850, I do think that Bitcoin's just going to float its way backwards, float its way onwards and upwards back up to about 10150 to 10200, and that's where the game begins once again. That is around where CME's closed on Friday, which is going to create a nice little gap in price action, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't pop back up there before CME's open at about 5 p.m. Eastern time. But what I'm looking for to happen around CME's opening is for Bitcoin to be kind of sucked in around that same price action territory. If Bitcoin spot price action is actually trading below where CME's closed on Friday when CME's open later today, I would perhaps consider this as an actual top here, more medium to long-term potential. But that's really only in the cards if I do see that Bitcoin price action is well below that area, leading up into the open of CMEs. If that were to happen, I'd probably be looking to sell this area. However, I do think that intraday we likely do see another test back into this region, and I do think that at that point, depending upon how much time there is between that price point being met and CME's opening, is going to really define on, well, how much more I'd be looking on top of that. But essentially what we can kind of boil this down into right now is we can just outline or we can put in another blue box right here. While I don't think that it happens today, but again, my opinion is irrelevant. If Bitcoin were to close below this blue box or anywhere even below 9850-ish region, or even just take out this wick low right here at about 9750, I would look for a full-on move all the way down to about 9550 to 9600, and probably another bounce there, and that would start to look a lot more bearish from the higher time frame perspective. But remember, the macro does not switch around to bearish until 9600 is taken out to the downside. As of right now, we have higher lows still in place, and actually just got confirmed. I think this is even on a 4-hour right now, and we do certainly have hidden bullish divergence confirmed as well between this point and this point, and that goes all the way up to maybe even a 12-hour. Yeah, actually is present on it is not confirmed on a 12-hour, but in the making. If Bitcoin does close this next 12-hour above the 21 exponential moving average, which is about 99.80ish right now on Mexico, then I would look for that to likely play out, and we will get that move back up to about 10,200 to 10,300 actually. So that would start to look a lot better, and the uptrend still, maintaining its nice composure. I really don't see any major problems with this still as it is. I would only see a major problem if, again, we do close below 9,600 on a higher time frame, or if, from the lower time frame perspective, we take out that 98.50ish level, then I look for another like $200, $300 move to the downside. But for right now, as long as things kind of hold here and you just don't see that break happen, I would expect things to just kind of level out and once again float back upwards and onwards. Everyone's really fucking bearish right now after a weekend move that typically gets reverted. And I'm not saying that it can't get sustained. Of course it can't get sustained, but I want to see it happen during the regular trading week. Any price action that happens over the weekend, I'm highly skeptical. You typically see weekend price action contra to the week's direction, and then once the real trading week begins once again, when the professionals are back in their trading seats, operating these lovely assets, that's when you'll probably see things start moving in the general trends direction once again. So we do have that hidden bullish divergence building up all the way and confirmed, I believe, until a 10-hour. And yes, it is confirmed on a 10-hour and working on a 12-hour. Once we get the 12-hour confirmed, which will happen, it's got a few things that need to happen, but in a little bit less than 3 hours, if we can actually close above the 21, which we are currently above right now, then yes, I would look for price action to float its way back up to 10,200 to 10,300ish region before anything else is really decided. And I would remain short term looking for this bounce to just play out. Essentially, we are going to see all momentum also just turn up, I believe, at the same time here too as well. We do see 4-hour Stokes pointed back upwards and onwards, 3-hour Stokes there as well, 2-hour Stokes going to be already there, and hourly Stokes already up. So yeah, I do think that we're just going to probably float it up here. Maybe another test back down to 9,900 or 98.50. That's fine. But as long as no breaks happen, I'm more or less looking for this price action to kind of be undone, and then probably frustrate a lot of people once again, as as price action typically tends to do. Anyways, I am curious how the medium time frames are operating right now. Let's go check out the 12-hour. 12-hour Stokes are coming down pretty aggressively here. Yeah, we did break that. The critical moment was the breakage of this trend line that we had in a few days ago. That was a pretty damn good signal right there, and letting on for some bloodletting to the downside. But what else can we look at here, or what else can we keep in mind with regards to CMEs opening a little bit later today, again around 5 p.m. Eastern time, which, by the way, tomorrow is an American trading holiday. I believe it's President's Day. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So it's still going to be a little bit floaty, but futures will be trading. Anyways, looking at CMEs right here, remember they closed at 10,475 on Friday, and that was akin to, if I could make a relationship with price action, that was 1,500 my time on the 14th. And let's just double check this one. I want to make sure that I get this exactly right. Yeah, it's 1,500 right here. We closed on that one 10,350. So I actually would probably be looking for price action to probably test around that region, leading up into the open of CMEs. And if price action is above that region when CMEs open, I'd actually get bullish for a move back up to about 10,500. I know it sounds a little bit crazy right now after this price action extrapolating right here, but hear me out. If the CME gap is essentially, it's not even filled, but if there is no gap present when CMEs open back onwards and upward, hi, I don't know how to speak English. If spot price action is essentially equal to CMEs where they closed on Friday, by the time that CMEs open, I'd be more or less bullish for a move back up to the top side of the range, and I'd get bullish for another move to 10,900 to 11,000 if and only if we can trade above this spike high that we saw on the 13th of February, Thursday, at 10,550 on BitMexico. So that's essentially the lower time frames as I see it right now. Remember that open interest is still relatively high. We are above that 1 billion marker, which does make earth-shattering shattering moves, pretty damn likely, and that's going to likely happen, I would imagine, coming into this next week. Now, here's the thing. With the weekly close not only happening on Bitcoin later today at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and also CME's opening later today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, what I would be looking at and what I would be keeping an eye on is the weekly Bollinger Bands. These have been getting the long-term trend, the macro trend, very, very well in Bitcoin land. I'm not a huge Bollinger Band fan, but hey, when it works, it works. And overall, looking at this price action right here, we are going to have a chance, or likely have a chance, to close above the top Bollinger Band on spot price action, which is coming in currently at about 10,250. That's obviously going to be even lower than when CME's closed on Friday. Remember, that was when spot was trading about 10,350, about $100 higher than where the top Bollinger Band is coming in at right now. And just looking at this and comparing the efficacy of it over time, anytime that Bitcoin's closed above the top Bollinger Band, those are strong trending moves, and those moves typically get sustained for quite some time. And when I say quite some time, I mean like 6 months plus. We have this. Let's actually just measure some out. Okay, it is Sunday. Let's do some long-term analysis. Anytime that we've closed above the top Bollinger Band, let's see how much percentage gain we typically get. So on this one right here, starting it from the first closure outside to the next high, 186% move to the upside. Starting it from this high to the next high, what do we have? 1,650% essentially. Then we have this example right here, getting our first closure above, and next high, we got 630%. So so far, so good, I would say. This one right here was a one-off, so not perfect, but we have one one-off for two relatively good signals thus far. This one right here, again, even though this one did end up getting faded, we did get one close above on this guy right here, and then the next high was about 60% higher, and then it did get faded and then actually rallied up again. So more or less fine as far as I'm concerned. But that's still 3 for 4 with only one real fake out, as I'm sure some people would consider that one a fake out. No, I would not. This one right here, another 50% move, pretty damn good. This one right here, a very similar one. I do consider this more or less constructive here, but this move still getting about 33% after closing above the top side. This one was another fake out, so we do have a few examples of it. It does typically happen, and it does set up for moves back down to the median Bollinger Band. However, the trend typically does continue in that direction. Macro, meaning the long term. This one over here, about 110% to the upside, not bad. This one over here, getting our first close above to next high, about 36%. And this one right in over here, where we get, we do have a fade, price action right here, 36% up first, then gets faded down, and then the next one gets engulfed to the upside. So do you consider that, two separate ones or the same one? Technically, it should be the same one, but even if we made this look less appetizing and did two separate ones, that's 150% move, and then a 35% move essentially. And then more recently, we saw this signature happen over here in April of 2019, going all the way up on that first leg, and kind of same thing here. Gets faded, but then another big move up. So after 79% move, and then this guy right here, 55% move. So we got our first closure right here above. And we're gonna have a chance to close this one that we're working on right now above as well. And by the way, CMEs have actually already confirmed that close above. And let's just put this into perspective, right? On the low, worst case scenario, there were times absolutely when the next dildo actually did get faded and did come back down and test around the median Bollinger Band. That would be pretty damn devastating from our current trajectory. That would put us probably back down around that $8,500 number. Completely fine from the macro, to be fair, but that would certainly offer up some nice downside trades, absolutely. So how would I kind of judge that happening from this current trajectory? It's very, very simple trade right here. If we even just take out the low side of this current weekly dildo, after this one gets confirmed later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I would look for a move back down to about the mid 8,000s, 8,700 to 8,500, extremely likely. However, not really looking for that to happen, and that's likely going to come alongside of 9,600 getting shattered on a higher time frame as well. But more importantly, to the upside, let's just say even on the low end, which was about 35% gain on the worst examples, what would that look like from our current trajectory? Well, taking our last closure above and starting there, what would that look like? That would actually put us back around, quite literally, our prior highs in June of 2019 at around 14,000 bucks. I did a little bit more right here, but you can see that that's about 40%. And realistically, if I made it like exactly 30%, it would be somewhere right around like a little bit above 13,000. So both pretty damn good. And that's again on the lower end. For most of those examples, we've seen Bitcoin go, multiple 100% to the upside. So I do think that is worthwhile to keep an eye on. And more importantly, because we've already seen CMEs confirmed above the top 200 band, which closed its weekly on Friday, I think that we are likely to see spot do the same thing, especially if spot can close anywhere above where they closed on Friday as well, 10,350, which, I would be looking forward to get a retest around there at the very least 10,200-ish region. So I'm still not bearish here. I'm only bearish in three scenarios. The three scenarios where I become bearish are very, very short term, which is not relevant to the macro but sets it up, is if Bitcoin closes below 9850, I would look for a move down to about 9600 and probably a bounce there. But that's only short term. From the macro term, what I'm looking for is either one of two things. We either close a higher time frame, meaning a daily, 3-day, or weekly below 9600. That would make me bearish, likely for a move down to about 8500-ish region. Or if this weekly closes something resembling like what you see right now is kind of like a doji dildo, a sign of indecision, and then we take out the low side of this current dildo at about 9700, 9750-ish region, then yes, I would look for a return back down to, mid 8,000s-ish region. That's really the only way that I get bearish from this current trajectory over like a higher time frame perspective. Anyways, I want to remind myself that on the weekly right here, we still certainly do have the inverted head and shoulders from CMEs, which certainly does have a measure move all the way up here towards 11,500, 12,000 bucks. That sounds a little bit familiar, in line with the projected moves from that Bollinger Band that we saw earlier. Not only that, but we do see that is the area where price action has been stopped for the last couple of years, ever since February 2018. Double rejection right here at 12,000, rejection right here in June, then July, then August, all at $12,000 number. This is all going to line up perfectly with the volume profile. So volume profile also agreeing with this area being a major massive area of fuckery. And as long as we're below it, as long as we're below it, there's no like major massive moves to be talking about Bitcoin to like 16,000 or 20,000. But you do see that naturally a change of behavior is going to be indicated by the volume profile anywhere above this region. You see it completely falls off, which means that Bitcoin is just going to be in a whole new fucking world. If you think this is volatile right now, if you're getting liquidated by $500 moves right now, it's going to get about tenfold worse over here. It's going to be even more, even more crazy, even for Bitcoin. So yes, all those things line up with each other. So we have patterns, we have volume profile, we have long-term formations, we have horizontals, of course, as well, and just historical areas of front-running liquidity within these regions. Essentially, a liquidity grab. I mean, what do you want to call this? Do you want to call this what's the term that what's the term that I use in the TA program? I refer to these as liquidity pools. And this is exactly one. So at the end of the day, I do still think that a lot of things line up with that area, and it also would kind of be in line with the projected move from that, from the Bollinger Band. Although you can't really do that, but just going off of the history of it, more or less gets you around that region. Anyways, as it stands right now, I do want to go back down to the daily. Let's actually talk about the higher time frames a little bit more. So that was pretty much all. I kind of encompassed all the bearish view that I'd be looking at right now. Now let's talk a little bit more about the bullish view, because not only do we have the CMEs closing above their top Bollinger Band right here, but we also have weekly on Bitcoin price action. Let me get rid of the volume profile and let's focus exactly only on two of these major movement averages here. But the big things is that as far as the weekly is concerned for spot price action, Bitcoin's been opening and closing weekly dildos above the yellow 21 exponential moving average for a while now. And anytime in the history of Bitcoin that we've been opening and closing weekly dildos above there, those are long-term upwards markets. Again, you see this market right in over here, starting from this kind of entry point towards the next major high. How much is that? About 5,000% gain. Then we have this next point right in over here, regaining the 21 until your next high is another 1,150% gain. Then we have a one-off right here, but the 21 exponential moving average does get slightly a positive slope, so we could say that this one actually does work okay, about a 26% move. But you know, this was overall still in the context of a downtrend. Although this actually is kind of interesting here, because we did make a higher high on the weekly and then ended up just failing after that. So fair enough, you know, potentially. But the 21 exponential moving average never really got like a super positive slope like kind of we see right now. Anyways, of course, after that, you know, major massive moves over here, basically going up the whole way from 2016 to 2018, 7,000%, a little bit of an outlier there, of course. And more recently, this guy right here from 5,000 to 14,000, another 160% gainer. And what do we see right now? We see that we're living above the yellow 21 exponential moving average. It does have a nice positive slope, as we've seen in the past as well throughout these markets. And what you did not see during this time that it had the bull trap in 2014, by the way. And not only that, we do see the red 10 simple moving average having a nice positive slope alongside of it, which you'd expect if the 21 is going to have. And they're going to actually cross the upside probably in the next like week or two, assuming that Bitcoin essentially doesn't take out that 9,600 level to the downside. So all these things coming in line with each other, and I want to make sure that I'm recording at the same time. I am recording at the same time. Great, awesome, good. And I do like that read. Not only that, but we do see that weekly momentum oscillators still more or less fine. We do see that weekly Stokes are going to have their first chance to close and confirm inside the bullish control zone since August of 2019, which, by the way, we were in the bullish control zone all the way from March 2019 to August 2019. Let's look at what price action was doing. This is March. This is March of 2019 right here. This breakout all the way from here to here was all of that bullish control zone just being filled out. We're just entering into it right now. Now, typically speaking, your first attempt in is usually going to be knocked back. And so that might be what we're seeing right now. But overall, I would say that that's a long-term good thing. And again, when we're looking at a weekly, we're talking about, you know, months out in price action. And that's essentially what the new video in the TA program is all about. Looking at weekly RSI, we do see that Bitcoin, you know, kind of testing around the bullish controls in here. Not exactly, but more importantly, getting above this blue box territory, which has accurately gotten all the bull markets and bear market switch ups in the past. And what do we see here? We do see that Bitcoin, once again, you know, just put it in comparison. We get above this blue box in April of 2019. We lose it in September 2019. That means April right here from 5,000 all the way to 14,000 and not losing it until 10,300 was broken to the downside right here encompasses that whole price action. During 2018, we were living below the blue box and selling off it for all the way from January of 2018 quite literally until April 2019. That is literally, and I sound like some sort of fucking social justice warrior right now. I do apologize about that, but literally all the way from here, January 2018 to over here in April 2019. Absolutely fucking beautiful. Operating very, 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 very well. So the efficacy of these signals is extremely good. Now, on top of that, we do see that the weekly RSI is closed obviously above the blue box territory. I would look for it to be retested at some point, at which point I will look for a longer term position. The question is that going to happen on this current knockdown right here, or are we going to get an official test in the bullish control zone and get like your classic test there, rejection, then come back down and then flip it back around? I don't know. I just know that around this blue box territory, I'm interested in trades. I'm interested in longer term trades, and that's all I can say about that. And that's not even to say that it's going to be perfect. And this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but it does offer up a very, very nice piece of edge. Now, I do want to check out one other thing while we are here on the weekly, on the weekly. And what do we see? Let me just get rid of this for a second. We see that weekly historical volatility percentile is very, 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 very low. That means that historically speaking, we've only been a few times lower than where we are right now, and all of those were precipitating humongous moves. We're talking about the move in March 2019. March 2019 coming from here, from all the way from 4,000 to 14,000. We're talking about, I think this one right here, perhaps. Yes, indeed, October 2016. So this whole move from about $600 to $20,000. The one before that was a nice, a nice consolidation period after flipping around from bear to bull in April 2016, just a few months prior, right around here. So it gave you a little bit of a better entry before the major massive price action, right around here, quite literally on the last low before this whole uptrend got confirmed, and then before that, quite literally on the low. So very, 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 very good. And it does just so happen that all of these low reads on historical volatility percentile on the weekly do come before like major up markets. That's not always going to be the case. I mean, usually usually, volatility going up actually is a sign of downside, especially in traditional markets. Not necessarily for Bitcoin, but we do see that. But I just want to make it completely clear that just because the past few times Bitcoin's always moved to the upside when volatility is very low on a weekly. That's not always going to be the case. It's just telling you that a big move is coming. It doesn't tell you the direction of that. Your munch monster is going to be better for that. But as we just kind of looked at weekly the weekly Stokes and RSI looking more or less healthy as far as I'm concerned. Now I do want to check out one thing here as well. I do want to throw on the accumulation distribution indicator while we're kind of hanging out on this weekly chart. I'm curious if it's doing anything of particular interest. Sorry, this is the wrong one. Hey, get out. Oh, motherfucker. These damn indicators, these bastards of indicators. Let's see. Did I lose my accumulation distribution indicator? Those bastards. I think I did. How do you spell accumulation? Accumulation. There we go. All right, there it is. Found it. All right, beautiful. Look at this. On weekly accumulation distribution indicator, we have a nice positive slope. I really like that, and I only care about the slope on this, and I'd say that that's more or less good. Anyways, let me take it off for right now. Just wanted to do the daily rounds of that, or the weekly rounds of that, perhaps better spoken, and go over here to the monthly. The monthly still looks pretty damn good to me. I don't really have any major issues with this long term. This does make me think that it's quite unlikely that we do head back down below 9,000 anytime soon. But hey, the triggers for that sort of price action very well defined, so I do like that. But keep in mind that as long as Bitcoin closes this next month, which has about 2 weeks left, or a little bit less than 2 weeks left, anywhere around 10,000 or especially above 10,000, we will see monthly Stokes cross back up to the upside. That would be resiliency after getting rejected from the bullish control zone, which would be bullish overall and very likely lead us up for another test into this region. And more importantly, the monthly RSI would confirm back above the exponential and likely initiate a test back up towards the bullish control zone as well. In longer term, it looked more or less very healthy. So I do like what I'm seeing there. And actually for this week as well, let's go check out the bi-weekly, right? I think that we are closing a bi-weekly this week. Yeah, we are. Okay, great. So this is actually gonna have some relevancy. Looking at the bi-weekly right here, any sort of a closure above 9,600 is very good. Not only do we have that, but we have bi-weekly Stokes turning up for the first time since quite literally February of 2019. Let me remind you that February 2019 was at about $3,900 before rallying all the way to $14,000 just a few months later. Not only that, but the bi-weekly RSI is gonna have its first confirmation back above the exponential since putting in this head and shoulders and breaking down in fucking September 2019, when price action initiated this whole move from about 10,300 all the way down to about 6,500-ish region. I really like both those reads on this one, and I put a shit ton of weight on that, and it just so happens that the bi-weekly is going to be confirming later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time in about 14 hours and 30 minutes and 16 seconds. And running, baby, and fucking running. Anyways, okay, cool. So let's go back down to the lower term time frames, and let's go check out what the probabilities of these sort of moves are, keeping in mind exactly what these ranges are. First, let's get back these blue box territories. And what do we see here? We see the blue box territory at 9850. If that one gets broken, I would look for a move down to about 9600. That's where the macro starts to change around for higher time frames. By the same token, 10,150 to 10,200 is this guy right here. Anywhere back above there, I'd get bullish for a move back up to about 10,450, 10,500-ish region, and then I'd extend that target to 10,900 or $11,000 if and only if we can take out and preferably close above this 10,550 spike right here to the upside. So let's go check out what the expected moves say, and this is being run off of a 12-hour right now. And what do you know? We do see that the bottom side of the first navigation on the 12-hour is coming in right around the blue box territory in low 9,800. So it would be less than a 16% chance that we actually do break that today. So in the next 12 hours worth of trading period, which means, remember, that means that's going to be around the daily close. We have about 14 hours left in the day. So 12 hours from now should be relatively accurate. And we should get really good clarity on this situation once we get this current 12-hour delta closing. I'd say that a close anywhere above 9850 or especially 9900 is going to open up these rings a little bit more angled to the upside. But even as they are right now, while it is kind of under pressure after that last little dump last night, or moderately nice dump last night, we do see that the top side of the first navigation is coming in right around 10,150. So it would be certainly within the realm of possibility that we actually do see that move happen back up today. And personally speaking, with CMEs having that close back around 10,350 in relation to spot, I do think that we probably see this open back up to the upside and we do test around this region, and that's really all I'd be looking for. So it is less than a 16% chance that we actually do break above about 10,002 or 10,003 at the current moment in time. I'd want to see the next 12 hour though. I'd want to see the next I'd want to see how the next 12 hour dildo sets itself, and how these kind of evolve from here. But I'd imagine that any sort of a close, especially above 9,900, we will see the bottom side rise up. It's probably going to come around 9,850-ish region, as it's currently around low 9,800. So that's going to mean that's going to imply a less than 16% chance to break below that key level before the closure, the weekly closure today, and then that's going to allow the upside of the first deviation to probably come around 10,250-ish region, which is going to be a lot more in line with what we're looking at from last week's closures. So I do like all of that, and it essentially says that I'm not necessarily certain I'd bet on like a full-on breakdown, especially today. You know, if we are gonna have a breakdown, it's certainly possible, but I'd be looking for it to happen actually in like a week from now. I wouldn't look for it this week. I'd look for this week to be, well, actually no, it could happen this week, yes. But it probably wouldn't happen until like Tuesday, Wednesday-ish region. Anyways, looking at, we haven't even looked at historical volatility percentile on the lower time frames. I don't really care about them on the lower time frames for spot during the weekend. I care about it on CMEs, and on CMEs we do still see that, well, lower time frames actually did kind of spike up to end the day. No, sorry, they were contracting. We see hourly contracting here, winding up for a nice little move. Same with the 2 hour, 3 hour. They're all contracting right now. So this move happening, so that kind of further solidifies my position that this past move happening over the weekend is likely to get faded as we see this contraction phase kind of come in line with, or I'm presuming that there's going to be contraction phase after this coming in line with what we saw CMEs close with on Fridays. So again, that's essentially what I'm focused on right now. Okay, cool. I haven't checked out, or we could go over here and check out the Bitcoin VWAP ratio. I haven't really been checking out this too much recently, just because I'm more or less we saw the changes that we were looking for in it. But looking at it right here, we do see that we have the full-on bullish splayed effect of all these different movement averages on the VWAP. We got the blue trading above the purple, above the pink. That's the most reactive, above the middle reactive, above the least reactive, all above the regression line, which has been the accurate signal given from all of our past bull markets. Actually, having all of those above the regression, especially the pink and the purple, with the purple above the pink, and then the blue starting to really speak to the strength of that trend. I do think that we are setting up for a more long-term healthy market here. Now, of course, that can have ebbs and flows, and this is really speaking to like the super macro right now. So this is not something that's it's not something that's even relevant to like today or tomorrow or the next couple weeks. We're talking about like months of price action here. But overall, I do like what's happening, and I would say that this is the healthy. This is a really healthy read, similar to what you saw right in over here before this major rally coming out of this base. For this parabolic run right here, and then again, a few months later, essentially, and then more recently, all the way from about 2016 to 2018, we had a very similar signature here as well. But we're in the first baby kind of steps of this. So I actually really, really like that. Of course, it's not going to have any sort of say in the matter like today or tomorrow or the next day, but we're talking about months and months of price action in the future. So I do still like that, and I do want to keep a bird's eye view of it, because when you start looking at the weekend price action, getting stuck in the minutia, you can lose sight of the things that I would put more weight on. Of course, everyone's entitled to their own beliefs, but that's I suppose just my belief. Anyways, we don't have anything new to talk about on traditional markets or Forex or commodities, because, well, they closed on Friday and we spoke about them yesterday. But we can talk a little bit about the other majors. We can talk about Mr. Buterol right now. How's he doing? How's he kind of holding up in this one, and actually having a pretty nice move, or sorry, a pretty nice reaction off that little dump. And this is very interesting to me. We haven't really tested a major moving average since getting the golden cross on Mr. Buterol, so I do think that it would actually be quite healthy to come back down and test around like 250. However, Mr. Buterol kind of relatively strong here, as Bitcoin on that last major down move actually hit all the way over to the daily 21 exponential moving average. which, obviously deeper retracement than what Mr. Buterol saw. So Mr. Buterol maybe a little bit more relatively strong at the current moment in time. Now I am curious here, do we have any bearish divergence on timeframes that matter? And there's a couple things that do stick out, which I'm a little bit concerned on. We do see that historical volatility percentile is actually getting quite red here, which does make me think that we are kind of coming towards a local top. And you know what? I believe we had, yes, this blue box. Wait, where's my blue box? Yeah, this blue box right here. So we did actually shoot through it on Friday and then shattered it again yesterday, but I would still say that this blue box right here is more or less doing its job. It's more or less doing its job. We got to pull back from that region. I'd expect to see a little bit of sideways price action here, but essentially what we can mark off now is this, what is this, like 258? What is this? Sorry, 260. Oh, nice. Not a nice even number. As long as this is above 260, I'm more or less fine here. I'd look at sideways price action above this level as constructive and setting up for the next move towards 310-ish region, we'll call it. And more or less fine, more or less good. This is all coming along the side of hidden bullish divergence forming. It's already confirmed on the 4-hour, but what about the 12-hour? 12-hour, it's forming right now. It's not necessarily there just yet, but any sort of a close above the 10 simple, and we're very likely to confirm it, I'd imagine. And even the daily might be forming a little bit. Yeah, it actually is a little bit, although not your standard analysis of that. Anyways, same thing on this one. Maybe comes back down and tests around low 260s. I don't have any problem with that. I only have a problem if we start closing 4-hour dildos below 260 even, and then yes, I would call a move back down, all the way back down to like 240-ish region, 245 region down here. I don't think that's going to happen though. We are seeing momentum oscillators turn up as we speak, and this is coming during a contraction phase on lower time frame historical volatility percentile. This got really red last night, so I would be looking for this to cool off, and consolidating above this region would be more or less constructive and solidifying this as a higher low, which I don't see any reason to really panic about this. It's completely fine to me. Below 260, yeah, a little bit of panic there. I'd be looking for another, I don't know, like 10% move to the downside. Very tradable, absolutely. But as it stands right now, no, not really. And I do think it's actually more likely to pop back up to about 280-ish region. Now I'm not necessarily saying that it's going to like absolutely blast through the top there, but I do think that it tests the top side of this range, and then maybe coming into like the next couple of weeks, we might see continuation if Bitcoin acts well as well. Looking at Mrs. Litecoin, how's she doing? How did she hold up during that last dump dildo party? And we got the same thing going on here. Hidden bullish divergence confirmed all the way up to, I believe, a 10-hour already. Yes, indeed. So I do think that we're probably going to see another move back up. Well, we already saw a move back up to the top side of this blue box at about $81. So the easy move of that's kind of already been had. Same thing on the 12-hour, potentially forming here. If we could just if we could just take out the top side of this 12-hour dildo at $80.50, I would extend that target to $83 this next 12-hour period, and that would start to play out this hidden bullish divergence here as well. But realistically, it's kind of same thing here as Mr. Buterol. Now, if we do take out the low side wick of yesterday's dump dildo at $75, a little bit above $75, I would look for an immediate move down to about $72.50 right here, probably another bounce, and that'll likely set it up for continuation a little bit lower, more medium term down to like 67.5 region. So keep an eye out on that. This one looks potentially as the most or one of the more weaker ones. 12-hour does have confirmed bearish divergence, which should kind of lead up into that move. Even on the daily, I think we have bearish divergence here too. Yeah, we do have bearish divergence confirmed on a daily, which is a little bit problematic and does make me think that it actually does see down to about $72.50. But going back to Mr. Buterol, did we have any confirmed there? No, technically not. What about Bitcoin? Yes, actually yes, but was it present on CMEs? No, it's not present on CMEs. So Bitcoin spot did play out bearish divergence. We did get that test down to the 21, and now we're kind of bounced off it. So I do think that move is actually, it would be relevant to say that perhaps we already did see the damage done. Anyways, for Mrs. Litecoin. For Mrs. Litecoin, I'd say that this one, if any one of them looks bearish, it's actually most likely Mrs. Litecoin. But getting that fresh golden cross right here, I would look at any sort of price action if it does come back down to like $72.5, $73 as an opportunity. That would be considered the first major test of a major moving average. Of course, we've already got the 10 simple after getting the golden cross, and I put a shit ton of weight on that and probably look for at the very least a nice bounce off that region, probably back up to like $80-ish region, and then we'll talk about it after that. Keep in mind though that the weekly is more or less healthy here, more or less fine. I don't have any major issues with it. Any close above about $72.50 looks more or less really, really good to me. And we didn't even look at Mr. Butero. How does his? Oh my God, weekly on Butero looks great. So yeah, I would say like the next big piece of price action is going to be had above 310 on a weekly close, and then we could target a move up towards like $500-$600, but that's still a little bit farther away too. Let's go see what about Ripple Me Nipples over here. How's the Ripple gang doing? Ooh, little bit under pressure here. However, it's going to have a chance to close above the 200 simple, and I put a lot of weight on that as far as weekly close goes, and that's pretty much where exactly we are right now. It's coming out at 31.36 cents. Essentially, and any sort of a weekly close above there, and I would look for this run to get extended to like 40-ish cents, and probably beyond after that. It looked relatively good. Now, if we do close below the 200 simple, that's where things get a little bit more difficult. I would look for a retest of like 29.5 cents after that, and probably bounce from there, and then we have to reassess from that point. I wouldn't make any further calls on top of that. What about EOS? Is this a nice cult coin as well? I'm not so sure. Coming back down, testing the 89, fine. How's the daily looking like? Daily testing the 21, probably does bounce here a little bit. Golden cross, all major movement averages mostly bullish. We just got the 89 crossing the upside of the 200. Longer term, I really, really like it. Shorter term, gonna play out a range here between the 21 and the 10, $4.5 to $5. I think it's okay. What about Tron Cash? How we doing here? Same thing here as well. Fresh golden cross. This is all coming above the last major weekly high, so I really like that. I do think that some sideways price action here is in order. However, sideways would be considered constructive as long as it is above the critical point of about 2.3 cents, we'll call it. As long as it remains above there, completely fine, completely constructive, and long term sets it up for another move and another push, probably into like the 3 cent territory, 3.2 cent territory. Longer term, I think this is okay. Do we have the same sort of bearish divergence present? No, we do not. What about the weekly? Weekly is going to look really, really good as long as it closes above about 2.3 cents. So I'd put significant interest on that above everything else. Intraday price action day is going to be very difficult to get. I think it'd be a lot more worthwhile to look at the weekly closures because less fuckery going to be abound in those assets. Anyways, go check out Tezos. Tezos is another one that's been getting a lot of love recently. I don't usually talk about it, but it did enter into price discovery for a little bit of time there, and what are we doing right now? Little bit of bearish divergence, actually. I would look for this one to come back down and test around 290, but is the party over just yet? I wouldn't say that the party's over until this thing loses about 260, 265. It is in kind of a parabolic move here, and one of my big rules with parabolic moves is don't fade the fucking move until you get a confirmed like major signal of potential reversal. In this case, I'd be looking for something resembling like not nasty bearish divergence. We don't necessarily have it just yet, but it is forming. It will be forming relatively soon. So is the high confirmed and right here just yet? I wouldn't say not just yet. It probably looks to me like we have another push to the upside and then a high gets put in, but historical volatility percentile getting this red on a daily plus divergence plays forming on a daily RSI is very, 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 very likely to mark a nice medium to long-term top. But I don't think that we have enough just yet. I think it probably gets another leg and then it plays out. And where can that next leg take you to? Well, in parabolic moves, there's nothing to really compare it with, and the worst thing that you can do is short a parabolic move before the top is actually in. I've seen many accounts blown doing that, and a lot of people in Tesla can tell you the same thing. Anyways, I'm curious if there's another exchange that maybe has more price action history for this one, just to make sure that it is in price discovery. I think someone made a comment the other day that that's not true because there's another exchange that has had more, but I'm not seeing it right now. It's both Kraken and Finex not showing it. I would say Bittrex probably not going to show it as well. Maybe like one of these old shitcoin exchanges like HitBTC, perhaps. Let's check it out. No, yes, actually, yes. Okay, great. Okay, now we have something to go off of. Okay, great. Oh man, the one use case for fucking shitcoin Huobi exchange. All right, let's mark off a few points of interest. So we got this guy right here, and support right here. Let's see how that lines up with the current price action. Oh, beautiful, fucking beautiful. All right, fucking perfect. Okay, great. As long as it remains above about 260, 263-ish region, I do think that it might get another run up to officially test about 320, but I'd very likely look for it to put in a top somewhere around here, at the very least a medium term top, probably even a long term top as well. As by that point we very likely will have bearish divergence completely confirmed on daily RSI. Historical volatility percentile is red as the devil's dick, and we do see daily Stokes probably getting a little bit tired here as well. Yes, indeed they are. So yeah, I would be cautious with this one. I would be patient with this one, and I do think that it probably gets another try to the upside here, and then that's going to be the blow off. If I had to guess right now. Anyways, I think that pretty much does it for everything else that I wanted to talk about. A link still on its way to glory, it looks like, and Bitcoin literally at $10,000 even right now. So with that said, I'll briefly go back on over here and wrap up the most important things we have on Bitcoin, and then I'll leave you off until tomorrow, and perhaps even a later Twitch stream today. But looking at this right here, I'm not bearish at all as long as Bitcoin's above 98.50. If it were to break 98.50 to the downside, I would look for a quick move down to about 95.50 to 9600 right here. That's where the macro does start to get into a little bit of problems. And also I would get bearish if you see the weekly close anywhere above like 9700 and then coming into the next weekly open, which is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, we take out that 9700 or 9750-ish low, whatever it is on your exchange, then yes, I would get bearish off that for probably a move down below 9,000. I'm not really looking for that to happen, but hey, it is important to talk about all sides of price action. By the same token, I do think it's probably likely that Bitcoin does test back down to like 9,900, maybe even 9850, this blue box right here, but I don't think that it breaks it. I think that it's probably going to be another wick, and then we actually are probably going to give a test to about 10,150 to 10,200. If I had to give my opinion on it, I do think that Bitcoin floats its way back up there sometime around when CME's open later today at 5 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be when the fun begins once again, and once we get clarity on that situation, I do think that the full picture is going to be a lot more clear. Really, we want to see weekly closes anywhere above 10,250 is more or less bullish long term. Yes, of course, ebbs and flows in price action, but I do actually think that is kind of a good sign that this dump happened over the weekend. If contrary to that, if Bitcoin actually pumped over the weekend, I would have been bearish off that, and Bitcoin dumping over the weekend usually makes me kind of look towards the opposite during the real trading week, and I do believe that that's likely what's going to be happening here. And I would say that if Bitcoin even does trade above, not trade above, but if it does close above about 10,200, 10,250, even on a low time frame like a 2 hour or a 4 hour, I would extend that targeted that next targeted region towards about 10,400, 10,450, and then kind of hang tight a little bit. I don't know if it necessarily has the momentum to full on blast the upside just right here right now. In fact, looking at it, I don't really think so. But any sort of move above 10,550 would change my opinion on that, and I would look for an extension to about 10,900 to 11,000. So another potentially like $500-ish move in the cards on top of that. Very, very tradable, of course. Lots of edge on that, and the range is extremely well defined. So it's going to be a happy day of trading, I'd imagine. I want to wish everyone well once again. I'm hungry as fuck, so I'm going to go destroy some food, and then if I feel good after that food, I will perhaps stream a little bit later. If not, maybe else will stream. Also want to remind the people in the TA program that you got a new video waiting for you, so enjoy. Other than that, wish you all well, and until next time, take care.